I come not to praise Marilyn Maho. I come to bury her. I'm quoting Julius Caesar. Great Shakespeare. Anyway, so we're going to get to the main event. Don't worry. We're going to get to Scoville real quick. I promise. However, I would be remiss if I didn't add two things before we begin the main very dark, disturbing tale. And this will be omitting a few things for monetization. I will probably do something down the road that's more explicit, but I don't really need to be. There wasn't really much being said. So Marilyn did a further expose of Scoville. It's not really that much, but let's get to it. But there were two dilemmas. One is that she did this weird tangent attacking clearly me. She did that several times. She was very explicit. It was very specifically attacking me. Although I think she was bundling a lot of critics. So it's me, SPTV Foundation, Miss J, True Clear Media. Ironically, she was kind of also insulting Knife Hoarder and Good, but yeah, whatever. So she was just rampaging through a lot of critics for being too critical of her. But I did not know this, so I was like, all right, I'm mature. We'll deal with that in another video. But apparently, just someone, not a YouTuber, just someone commenting, she insulted them too. And I'm like, really? So yeah, she's a monster. She's not a good person. She's not a good reporter. She's not a cult expert. She's kind of pathetic. And this whole video didn't really add very much, but there were a few critical details. I will give credit where credit is due. We now have a few more details. It's a little bit more confusing, frankly, but let us get to it. So if you are just coming in, what are you talking about? Who is Scoville? Scoville is a lifelong criminal. He's tried to reframe himself as an innocent. He's redeeming himself, and he's only committed a few major crimes, like a bank robbery, some theft, and drugs. And it's like, no, it is much worse, more disturbing. So let us get right to it. But fair warning, this will get probably very depressing, very dark. So the essentials are when he was 17 and his victim was 15 in Vermont. And again, I'm going to exclude a lot of details because YouTube is like, that is how YouTube is. And I know a lot more than Marilyn, so I'm going to embellish a little bit what she said to make it more coherent. So essentially, when he was 17, apparently at a high school, he, in a staircase, attacked this young girl. Now, here's where the extra details are critical. It's still a little confusing because from Marilyn's recounting, remember, she's not exactly the brightest bulb. I'm not saying that's an insult. I'm just saying she's not that intelligent. So she's saying that Scoville basically, by the way, real name is Brett, but I'll be going back and forth between Scoville and Brett. Anyway, real name is Brett. Yeah, he changed his name. Brett followed this girl down the street. Like, there's one part which was really shocking where apparently he grabbed her hand and arm and basically held her. So he is maintaining the fantasy or fairy tale that it was just a young love affair and he was convicted of statutory. No, he was not. So he clearly used coercion. But the way I understood it was at the school, but she's saying it was in the street. So it's a little confusing. So maybe he forced her into the school or the school just is close to a street. It was a little confusing. In any case, the incident happened. And this is where it gets really shocking really fast. He really wasn't arrested due to that. What happened apparently is he was convicted based on an admission because the police gave the young girl, the victim, a wire. So they were working together. They were at the same job. So socially, even after the crime, they were physically close to one another. And get this, and again, YouTube monetization, I have to be careful. He insulted her and even called her the B word, female dog. So in the course of one of their conversations, he fully admitted what he did. And the police and prosecutors were able to say, okay, he admitted it. We have it on through the wire. It's over. So they were able to arrest him. Obviously, they went to court. He was convicted. He served several years. Really, Marilyn only added a few more things, namely that the probation was pretty severe. So I'm just going to go through the general thing. So apparently, due to that conviction, when he was released, he had to obey several guidelines. And keep in mind, we're not going to go into Gypsy Rose, but Gypsy Rose also has many restrictions, right? And she committed murder. I would have to say those restrictions are fairly moderate. These are much more extreme. So what are some of them? Well, Scoville could not have any quote adult material, period, of any kind, period. And you know what I'm talking about, corn. You could not have any kind of corn, period. He had to pay back the victim and counseling she did. He also could never write, speak, or call the victim in any manner at all. Completely cut off. He also had to submit to any photos if asked by the parole officer. The parole officer could also just, at any time, impose a curfew. He had to obey the curfew. And some added details beyond that is that he had restrictions even with any underage person around. So this part I'm a little fuzzy on. Do they mean just underage girls or underage boys? I don't know. But the point is, he was restricted. There were exceptions. Like, obviously, if you're at a job, you will sometimes work right with young kids. But even there, he always had to have an adult nearby to supervise. So quite literally, his restrictions physically, even emotively, psychologically, were pretty severe, which is good. So they didn't trust him. So for several years, he had to do that parole. Now let me add things that Marilyn did not, which is that even after this extraordinary case, he habitually committed crimes. He robbed banks. He committed fraud. He habitually lied. He took drugs. He sold drugs. And in fact, as alarming as these convictions are, they don't cover everything, because he admitted later in several videos that there were many crimes they never found out. For instance, he and his brother bragged, laughing, keep that in mind, laughing to one another that, oh, remember that time that police officer didn't do their job? If they had paid attention, we would have gone to jail for 40 years. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what they said. They were openly bragging. And in another video, he talked about drugs that could be used to basically, well, take advantage of people. And he kind of slipped up saying, well, I never heard of anyone using drugs like that, but I took the drugs myself, as did his brother. So even the convictions on the record really don't cover all his crimes. And it doesn't seem there's a single decade he did not commit a crime. So he's been committing crimes since the 1990s to the present. And just a few months ago, his ex-girlfriend revealed that for years and years, he's been scamming several old women with money and just tricking them to give him money. That on top of scamming other people, including some of his subscribers. So he has been a lifelong criminal. He's always had victims, various ages, right, young to old, but he's always victimizing people, whether financially, physically, or whatever way. He is always scamming people. It's just a persistent pattern. So did this video really enlighten us? No, we know all this. It's adding a few more details, but you can just look up news articles or Goot or Knife Forward or me or True Clear Media. You'll get more or less the picture of Brett and his brother. And as we close off, probably the only devil's advocate, can you say anything in favor of him? Well, I guess at least recently he's never had a repeat of that offense. It's probably the best thing you can say about him. And his brother is not as evil. Like, his brother's not committed the same amount of crimes or identical crimes, but he's also criminal. He's also scammed a lot of people. So yeah, his entire family is just very criminal, very corrupt. And it just keeps going on and on. The new schemes, new scams. There's some morbid, funny things about this guy. Like, I just found this old like early 2000s money scam he was a part of. It looks a little bit different, but it's definitely him. And it's just, and they're using his real name, Brett. So this is just a guy throughout every decade will always be harming, victimizing people. It could be nonviolent, it could just be money, but he's always taking something. He's always taking people's time, their energy, their effort, their innocence. It's just a mess. It's just a mess. So did Marilyn really do anything super? No. We've had this information, but it's good that we got more details. But we're definitely probably going to have a very future debate about how much we can be sensitive about private information, because I think we should. I think unless the victim explicitly wants to come forward, we should be very careful with that information. But let's be honest, he's really ticked off and victimized a lot of friends. So a lot of people who know him personally are fed up with him. So I'm guessing the thing is going to escalate. I think we need to be cautious with the information, but that's me. I will continue to do so, but I think other people are probably going to become more bold because, yeah, he's becoming more and more intolerable with his lies, and he's continuing to gaslight people and take and steal the money. And so it's very hard to see what's going to happen. It just seems like unless he's put back in jail, he's just going to continue to be a scammer and a con artist and a grifter. And there we are with Mr. Scoville, aka Brett, who definitely is not guilty of statutory, but something much, much worse.